Welcome back to the Cheap Heat Productions podcast. Okay, welcome back to the show, and I've got a special guest today, Mr. Kevin Vonesper. How are you doing today, man?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
Good, man. What was that you had there?
Ah, well, this is the eye of Dukey Flyswatter, as photographed by legendary punk photographer Edward Culver for the cover of a punk band called the Ads, which was Tony from the Adolescents. If you know anything about the Adolescents and old school LA punk rock, that was the shit right there.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that project you have, this
Yeah,
big project at the moment, but I want to know a bit about yourself first and your
sure.
background in movies and what you do.
Well, I live in New York, and I have been a professional videographer, video editor, photographer, music production sort of person, running my little company, Vonesper Studios, for about, I don't know, 10, 15 years, and been hustling, a lot doing. I do lots of photo shoots and music videos and concert videography and parties and stuff like that. So it kept me really busy for the last 15 years in New York City. But when the pandemic hit, kind of all
Yeah,
that stuff kind of went away. So I refocused my energies into some internal projects, and I combined my professional life with my passions in life and came up with this documentary I'm making called The Life and Slimes of Dukey Flyswatter and Haunted Garage. So it's the first of its of the first project of its scope in for me. I've never like made a movie before, but I do a lot of documentary style content, and so here we go. It's going to be an
yeah.
adventure.
Is this something that you kind of had in the back burner, kind of in your mind that you wanted to do, but just didn't have the time because you were
Sort
busy?
of. Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of Haunted Garage since I was like 11 years old, and um, I started the internet's first Haunted Garage fan site. So my quest for knowledge from them came from, 30 years ago. I've been on this kind of ride. And actually, in 2008, I finally flew to LA to see a reunion show of the band. I was only two of like the classic guys, but still, I got to like hang out with them, and they killed me on stage while Dinah Cancer from 45 Grave was singing. They chainsawed me, and it was just a real moment. And someone that night, I have the flyer on my wall over there. It actually says that they were going to start filming a documentary that night, but they never did. So I've been waiting for it for 15 or whatever years, and I'm like, you know what? It's time someone picked that project back up, and that was going to be me, because I feel like I'm the most qualified person in the world to do this, and I wouldn't trust anyone else to do it right.
So do you think there's potentially someone out there with more footage and maybe just put it on the back burner as well?
No,
No.
because I know who was gonna start it, and I got all their footage, and it was just that show from that night. They never even started the interview process or anything. Yeah.
So could you tell me a little bit about Juki and the
Yeah.
band? Just who they are, what they do, what they're known for.
This is Haunted Garage. This is their album Possession Park from 1991 on Metal Blade Records. Um, and this is what the band looks like. Another photograph by Edward Culver. I'm opposite. Um, they were like a kind of a horror movie on stage, I guess you would say. And the music, it was kind of punk rock, it was kind of heavy metal, but really it was just loud, fun, you know, kind of fast, like just intense music, and they had a show to go with it. And you know, they get compared a lot to say Guar, which is something probably everybody's more familiar with, um, which was their contemporaries at the time. But unlike the larger than life comic book characters that Guar had, these guys were just being versions of themselves, and that made it a little bit more scary because you never knew when you were going to get sprayed with some fake blood or when Dukey was going to go pierce himself and getting to see some real blood. But beyond that, he is probably equally or more known for his film career and just be like some of the most ridiculous but now I guess retro sort of famous B horror movies of the 80s, um, like Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, Surf Nazis Must Die, which was a trauma movie. A lot of people know Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama. He was the voice of the imp. He wrote Blood Diner, which is kind of like a cult classic of its own right. Banned in 29 countries at one point, supposedly. So yeah, it's just it's somebody that you everybody probably watching has probably seen this guy or heard this guy and just didn't know who he was. So I'm gonna tell you who he is.
Yeah, I always
He's
find
Dukey
that
Flyswatter.
I always find that when I'm hanging out with my friends, we always
Yeah,
say that.
he's put rat traps on his face. This is actually a rat trap from their final show that I filmed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I always say to people I know that there is a connection even these days between rock music and horror movies, but this obviously
Oh,
goes
yeah.
way back, way back. So when did the guys first come onto the scene over there? Was it the early 80s?
It was the mid 80s. 1985 is when the original Haunted Garage got together. And they were more of like a garage band, sort of bluesy, more, they're not really punk rock at all yet. And their whole theme was they would just cover the theme songs of bad movies that nobody's heard of, like The Green Slime or The Blob, which was actually written by Burt Bacharach, or like the theme song from Satan's Sadists, which Glenn Danzig would then go to record like 30 years later. So who was on the forefront of that Haunted Garage? And then over time, they kind of discovered some more punk rock roots and had some people cycle through the band, and they became like the intense, more heavy metal punk rock version of that everybody knows. And then they broke up in 1992, right while they were playing with Tool and White Zombie and Green Jello and L7, and Nirvana was scheduled to open for them, and all these bands that just went to like, you know, Tool had a #1 album the other year, you know, knocked Taylor Swift off the charts. Haunted Garage was right there with them, but they broke up just before they kind of went up there with them. So, you know, they did come back. They had a revival lineup in 2013. They put out this wonderful piece of filth called Slender Man and Other Strange Tales. Yeah, and the new guys carried it out pretty well. They made it kind of like a chunky or heavy metal. They kind of brought out that sound of the band. But I like you, most people have never heard of this band, don't know who Dukey Flyswatter is. And when you find out, if you watch this trailer and just kind of like see all the things that they did or the people that are associated with them, you're gonna be like, how the f did I miss this?
Yeah, yeah, because I seen the trailer on your YouTube channel,
Thank
which I'll
you.
put underneath
Yeah.
this video, and I just see it's just crazy stuff that they were doing. Were the gimmicks always involved in the band from day one?
Not to the extent it became. Like they would always have maybe like a guy in a gorilla suit or silly string at the audience and things like that. But it definitely escalated to horror movie special effects. Like they had a bunch of friends who were fresh in the business and hungry to do cool stuff, and they would take props from horror movies they were working on and bring it to the show, or like work up some gags to do during the show, and just whatever they found something weird or had this crazy idea or had a prop that left over from Return of the Living Dead or wherever, or recycled from Alice Cooper shows that they found in the garbage,
Yeah.
allegedly, you know, that's what you would see. Just like it's kind of, you never really knew exactly what you were going to get. And that's kind of what made it exciting.
Mm. in terms of this project, then, with, we'll say, members of the band and ex-members of the band, are any of them involved with you in the making of this, or are they participating in any way?
Yes, most members of the band, or at least the classic lineups, every member of the new lineup has been involved. Dukey Flyswatter is involved. Most of the guys in the famous lineup are involved or are going to be involved, or I haven't had direct contact with them yet, so I'm not saying no yet. But yes, although this is an independent project by me, I have so far the full cooperation of everybody involved, and I got to digitize their archives of tapes and things like that. So stuff nobody's ever seen before, I have access to.
So were you like ripping VHSs onto computers and stuff?
Yeah, Dookie sent me 2 gigantic boxes of tapes, of VHS tapes, cassette tapes. There was even a beta tape in there that I had to like go get specially uh, transferred for me. DVDs, not as many, but yeah, just lots of VHS, because this is really the going back to 1985.
Yeah. And
Which is incredible.
what is it about this band that resonates with you and that you want to really take this over the line and get this thing done?
Yeah, they've always been a fascination of mine. Well, I discovered when I was about 10 years old, I discovered Green Jelly. If you remember Green Jelly at all,
Hmm.
uh, these guys, they did the Three Little Pigs song in the 90s. I had a great video. Members of Tool kind of formed around them. Um, I found them, and then I found Guar, and then I found Haunted Garage. And this was like by the time I was 10 years old, and I was equally fascinated with all of them. I ended up joining Green Jello in 2008 and touring the whole country with them. Um, Guar has never stopped, and they actually had a documentary made about them that's in film festivals right now. So my joke is that I was left with Haunted Garage, the bottom of the barrel, but really they were the most fascinating to me always, because they only had like one album out in the time that they were, their classic lineup, and the other guys never really stopped. And it's time people know about this. It's whenever I have like a lifelong fascination with something, I feel like I need to do something creative to show the world.
Hmm.
And this was the obvious thing for that.
So the style of the movie, it's going to be a documentary style movie. Is that correct?
It's a documentary, yes.
Okay, it's a documentary. And how many hours of footage do you think you've accumulated?
Oh boy, and I'm not even done yet. Well, besides the archive, which we just talked about, with probably at least 50 to 100 tapes, of various length, I went to LA last summer and came back with about 42 interviews, and we've done a couple since. So I don't know, I'm bad at math, but if you say each one is about a 30 to 60 minutes long times 42, that's way too much fucking footage.
Yeah. How long do you plan the documentary to be?
uh I probably will try to cut it down to 90 to 120 minutes. It's going to be hard for me because there's a lot to tell, but I'm sure I'll have some sort of extended cut, at some point. Well, at least if I know we haven't talked about this yet, but on my fundraiser, the Indiegogo, there is
Hmm.
a tier for like the ultra mega, not even a director's cut, but like rough cut, basically everything before I cut anything. It's probably going to be like 9 hours long. So if you're really into the band, like that's for you. It won't be
Yeah,
polished, but it'll be like, here's everything before I really start chopping.
yeah. Do you think it's going to be a challenge to chop that amount of footage into 90 minutes? Like, I know that
Yes.
you're kind of used to video editing and stuff like this, but this
Yeah.
seems like on another level.
Absolutely. I mean, I did start doing some rough edits around the time I started working on the trailer, and I probably have about a good 30, 40 minutes just about like Dookie coming out of the womb and growing up. You know what I mean? And like the very early years. And I'm like, oh, fuck. That's a lot of footage. Sorry. I hope I can curse on this.
Oh, you can say whatever you
Okay,
want,
great.
man. No problem.
I'm
So
going to
when you when
mess up your
when you're
algorithm.
Oh, I don't care. My algorithm is fucked, man. I've interviewed porn stars and everything, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, we could get into that. He was actually nominated for an AVN award once.
Okay, tell us about that then.
Well, since I can say anything, you're gonna
Yes,
test me here.
you can say whatever you want.
Judy had a little bit of an adult career post Haunted Garage, although
Okay.
he well, Haunted Garage themselves sometimes would be a little bit X-rated on stage. You might see some more flesh than you would think, and sometimes it's females and sometimes it's males. You never know, and
Mhm.
sometimes maybe it'll confuse you. But anyways, he did do a couple interesting, I would say you would call them monster porn flicks, sort of like monster themed, but he was generally in non-sexual roles. He was kind of like the guy who would introduce the segments as a character. And he did one series in particular called Terrors from the Clit, which you could only imagine what that is a parody of. And he played the Clit Keeper. And he actually got nominated for an AVN award, which is like the most prestigious porn award, you know. Wouldn't you say?
There,
He
I
didn't he
would
didn't
say.
win, but just like knowing that Dukey Flyswatter was up for an AVN is just that. See, people need to know that.
Yeah, there's porn out there for everyone. I think that's what
Yeah,
people need to
yeah.
know. I
Yeah,
wonder,
there was a
are you
scene,
using, are you going to use any of that footage in the
I hope
documentary?
so. Well, the funny thing is that I actually interviewed the director of that and several of the other ones,
Hmm.
and he doesn't even have a copy of that. So
Okay.
I don't I have the one part one, but part two, the one he was nominated from, even the director doesn't have a copy, and I'm trying to find one for both of us. But the last time I saw it on sale was like $200, and nobody wanted to pay that. So
Are we
there
talking about a physical DVD copy? Is this what it
actually
is?
I think it was a VHS, because
Wow,
this was like the late 90s.
it's got to be in some haunted garage over there
Yeah,
somewhere.
exactly. Yeah, someone's got. If you're listening to the Cheap Heat podcast and you have a copy of Terrors from the Clit too, get in touch with me. I found some clips online that he used to sell through like a clip site, but they're
Yeah.
like terrible quality, like, early internet kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So I have it, and I'm sure I will use it in some way, but I need an upgrade if I can get one.
Hmm. If anyone out there can help you with that as
That's
well.
right. That's right.
We talked a little bit off air there, and you said that you had some wrestling connection to all this, so I'm
Yeah.
curious to know what it is.
Oh, well, you're gonna love this. Do you know anything about this? Andy Kaufman in My Breakfast with Blassie.
I know about Andy Kaufman, all right, and I know like that he was in a famous segment on American TV with Jerry Lawler as well, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he kinda had this feud with Jerry Lawler, and,
Yeah,
um and that's what this, neck brace is from, apparently,
yeah,
right? Remember when he was
yeah.
injured in that? And, they made this movie called My Breakfast with Blassie. Blassie, I guess, is an old school wrestler, and
Classy Freddie
this
Blassie, yeah.
Freddie Blassie, yeah. So, this movie is just it's what it's supposed to be is just them at breakfast, just having a conversation. That's the entire movie. It's supposed to be very like gonzo, I guess, like real, found not found footage, but just like reality TV before reality TV style, and them like fucking with customers or vice versa and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But anyways, this must be I want to say 1984 this came out, and you can also find it on DVD, but on both of these versions, the old school VHS and the DVD, before the movie starts, you see behind the scenes footage of the premiere of the movie in Hollywood, and there's a masked wrestler character going around interviewing people before the show, and there's a bunch of celebrities here actually. um, uh, Harold Ramis is one of them from Ghostbusters was there. Like, okay,
Cool.
stuff like that, just random celebrities, and um, and and then of course Andy Kaufman walks in, and it's actually his. From what I heard, I'm not an Andy Kaufman, what do you call it, expert, but I think this was his last public appearance before he died, and
Okay.
the masked wrestler interviewer actually is Dukey Flyswatter. So possibly the last interview Andy Kaufman ever did was in association with this wrestling movie he did, and he was interviewed by Dukey Flyswatter, and it's just classic. And Andy's got this mohawk in it. I think you can find it on YouTube too. He's got a mohawk, and Dukey makes the joke that he's starting a new series called Taxi Driver, because he looks
Yeah,
kind of like the character in Taxi Driver, but he was in the comedy show Taxi at the time.
there you go. Like everything
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah,
intertwines with each other.
and even better, I found a lot of, obviously I said the archive that I found is very vast. I found a lot of demo recordings and things like that that nobody's ever heard unless you were in the band or in the very inner circle. Um, and one of those demos is a song they wrote probably in 1985 called "Let's Hit the Mat Tonight." And it's about wrestling, and it was meant to be the theme song for a wrestling video that was going to come out on Rhino Video, apparently. And I guess it never happened, but I have the song, and that and many other demos that they've done over the years available for the first time on my Indiegogo campaign. So if you're a wrestling fan and you really want to get something, a historic, unique, weird little gem, you got to have that song. Let's Hit the
Yeah.
Mat Tonight by Haunted Garage in 1985.
Let's talk about the campaign and where you are with it and what you're offering in terms of tiers and stuff like that.
Sure. Well, I'm trying to make something out of nothing here, so there's not a lot of physical product, although we do have some stickers now, so get your stickers. That is the cheapest tier for $5. Just a little show of support gets you a sticker. Our most popular perk is just a thank you in the credits. $25, not too bad. I have like a sponsorship if you want to put your logo in there. I have a Ask Dukey a Question. Nobody's done that yet, but if you want to ask Dukey a question, I will ask it to him and film it for you like a personalized little video. Of course, I have the producer roles. If you got the deep pockets and you really want to support and get your name on there as a producer, we have that. We have some prints, and I would say the most exciting thing are these perks of demos. I have them in different eras, but like I uncovered I mean, they, for a band that only put out one album, boy did they do a lot of stuff that nobody's ever heard, or just were like locally giving away demo tapes. And you gotta hear this stuff. It's some of the best stuff they ever did. So
And
that is available for the first time ever for the most part, um, including if you're a horror movie fan. I don't know if you know this movie, Nightmare Sisters.
no,
Oh, well, you should know this movie, Nightmare Sisters. It's cult classic, horror movie. It's really a comedy, starring the big three scream queens of the 80s, Linnea Quigley, Brinke Stevens, and Michelle Bauer. Not only is Dukey Flyswatter acting in this, but Haunted Garage did the soundtrack for it. And it's kind of become this like ultimate cult classic. And it's never, the music other than on this has never been released before. Until now, I found the tape. So raw and straight from the cassette tape, straight from the studio, as far as I can tell. The Nightmare Sisters soundtrack, finally, including the theme song of the movie by Haunted Garage, Sorority Sister Succubus.
I don't really think that you've left any stone unturned so far. Do you think there's
I
more
don't think
stuff
so.
out there that you don't have?
Yes, and I know there is because I have pictures of people filming shows that I'm trying to identify and things like that. But for the most part, I think I've found most of things. And there's a couple tapes that, oh God, I don't even know if I want to get into this, but one tragedy that happened during the making of this so far is one person who was handling some of the tapes that were going to get digitized for me, and I have a picture of this stack, died the next day after getting the tapes in his hand before he could send them out. So they're kind of like in limbo. It's just like this really sad, fucked up story. And so, yes, there is stuff out there that I know that's out there, and things have been trickling in too. So, like, I found just amazing stuff like Dukey's college film that he made, I'm assuming in the 70s. There was one known copy of it on 8mm, and I found it. Like, nobody's seen this thing for at least 30 something years. So,
How did you find that?
well, I was interviewing Dukey, and he mentioned this film he did in college called Freezer Dreams, just a short, not like it was never released in any way, but it was just
Yeah.
something he made, and it was on 8mm. It was like, just he had one copy of it, I think. And he said the last time he seen it, one of the producers of Surf Nazis Must Die, which is one of his more famous roles, it's a trauma movie, um, had it. And he said she. So I looked on IMDb and I found the only female producer of Surf Nazis, and I found her, and it just so happens she had it. So it's been transferred. Nobody's ever seen this before. I haven't seen it yet because it's still waiting on a hard drive to be sent to me. But just some amazing stuff that I've uncovered. Just it's a lot of like detective work,
It
and
must be kind of
you
exciting in
really
a way.
have to. Yeah, it is. It's very exciting because I'm like the ultimate fan of the band, so nobody wants to see this more than me. And so that's why I don't trust anyone else to do this. Who else would like go and dive search for this stuff? Nobody.
Yeah.
And that's
And what?
why you should support the documentary, because it's so cool. Like, I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah, and you can tell you put a lot of work into it, especially because you're kind of running a one-man show here as well,
I
aren't you?
am. I am running. Well, I have a couple co-producers that are helping me out here and there, but the majority of everything and the all the editing and most of the filming, all the coordination, that's like, yeah, just me. I don't know how to operate any other way because I've been independent so long. People are like, "Oh, what's your team like?" It's like, it's just me, baby.
You're probably like me as well. Like I
I'm a
do this.
DIY punk rocker, and I
Yeah,
don't know how
I
to
do.
do it any other way.
I do this podcast. I missed one podcast. I think there was one that was scheduled with a wrestler that I couldn't do, and I got someone to do it for me, and she
Mhm.
done a great job in fairness. But I was like, I always want to do it myself. It's the same. Like
Yeah.
I do event promotion as well. So
Okay.
I promote the event, then I go to the event and I DJ at the event and I
Right.
do everything for the event. So I'm
Exactly.
like,
Yeah.
it's like an element of trust. It's like if you're not there, will that person do it the way I want it? That's how I
Yeah.
am as well. We're probably
Yeah, and
similar
plus,
in that way.
even though I can't make all the interviews because a lot of them are in California, and I'm stuck in New York, but for the majority of them, like, I wanna be there because it's part of the experience for me to, like, meet them in person. And, these are all people I grew up listening to or watching, like, my whole life, and it's just amazing. They're not necessarily famous people, but they are to me.
Yeah.
Some of them are
Yeah.
famous people, but those are the people I probably don't even, not even the most excited to talk to.
Yeah, I get you. When do you think, now this is the question that
Oh boy,
this
drum
thing is
roll,
gonna,
please.
when do you think that this thing is gonna be out?
I wish I had an answer for you. The more support I get, the quicker and easier it will be. But as you can hear from my passion towards this project, like, I'm gonna do it right. And if it takes me years to do it right, it's gonna take me years to do it right. And if I don't have this as much budget support as I hope for, like, you're just gonna have to wait until I can raise the money myself and just work my vanilla day job and do it. So, yeah, that is all very questionable. Hopefully sooner than later. It's definitely gonna happen. As you can see from the trailer, like, most of it has been shot already, and I'm very serious about it. That's why I wanted to put that out there before promoting it. So
Mhm.
yes, it's gonna happen. Help me make it easier and faster to do.
Yeah. And where can people, where's the people's go-to spot to find out all the information and the up-to-date stuff?
Sure. The easiest way to find it is dukeydoc.com, and that's DUKEYDOC, not like the Green Day album. DUKEY is how to spell his name.
Yeah.
Dukeydoc.com, at dukeydoc on Instagram, also Twitter, but I really don't spend a lot of time there. I don't like it very much. We have a
Yeah.
Facebook group called the Life and Slimes Dukey Flyswatter and Haunted Garage, and that's fun because it's not just me, it's just like old band members and people who have been fans and friends of theirs for years, like always posting old pictures and finding cool stuff, old flyers, and yeah, dukeydoc.com will link you to all the, you know, the Indiegogo, or I calling it the Indie Gorgor campaign, emphasis on the pain. You can find everything there, and all the press I'm doing, this will be linked there as well, you know, to catch a replay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Kevin, absolute pleasure to talk to you today, man. Really enjoyed
Likewise.
that. And
We're going international. This is amazing.
yes, and when this thing is nearly ready to go, love to have you back on again.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely
Thanks
keep
so
in touch,
much.
buddy. Thank you. Now let's go hit the mat tonight.
Boom.